Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about parasocial relationships because I was thinking on this for the past few days and people's perspective on it is just kind of off. People don't really understand exactly how it works. So parasocial relationships, it's defined as a one-sided relationship formed when one party extends energy, interest, and time, and the other person doesn't know they exist, according to the National Register of Health Services psychologists. So the key part of that definition is that it's a one-sided relationship where the other person doesn't know that they exist. But these days, it just feels like everyone is starting to use that word all the time. And I say this all the time, but there's just nuance in everything. We can't look at stuff in an absolutist way. So by absolutism, I'm talking about how people have these all or nothing opinions. If someone is supporting an influencer, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're having a parasocial relationship with them. Because through the definition, if that influencer were to ever contact that person, if that person was in the Discord of the influencer or a patron of theirs and they were able to communicate with them, if they were ever in like Skype calls with them or had their phone number, then that wouldn't be a parasocial relationship. So when you look at smaller channels, people also will think that there's a parasocial relationship going on. But if you are able to respond to all of your commenters at the time because you don't have that many, that isn't a parasocial relationship. You are recognizing that those people exist and you are quite literally interacting with them. So there's this idea that people have connected to that where they just think supporters are supporting because they're in a parasocial relationship. There's some validity to that. Oftentimes, if a person appears more human in a video, they will have a stronger connection with their audience. But there's this weird balance though. And basically the balance goes like this. If you were to show your face and speak in a very connecting way with someone and talk about your personal life, then people are going to develop a relationship with you. But if you don't interact with them in the comments and you are a little bit more elusive about how you feel about them, that enhances the interaction. But all of that is centered around creating a parasocial relationship. So there are parts of that where on their own is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to share stuff about your life. It isn't a bad thing to not interact with comments. It isn't a bad thing to show your face. But all of those things together can create a parasocial relationship, which also isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. And whether it's good or bad depends on the circumstance. This is all the nuance. But on their own, they're just symptoms of what could become a parasocial relationship. So I was thinking about this because I got this comment, I'll show it here, on a recent video I just put up where they were talking about what a lot of people were talking about. They were saying, oh, well, your video's this and your video's that. You were saying this and you were saying that. And I wasn't saying the things that they were saying I was saying. But this commenter said, maybe my audience gets where I'm coming from, but to everyone else, I come across as all these things and even called me elitist. For one, I don't think they understand what that means because how could I be elitist with what I did and who I am being a small channel? There's nothing elitist about what I said. But secondly, their initial idea, subconsciously, like when you read between the lines, is that they think because there were people supporting me in the comments, they must have been part of my audience. But in my analytics, I can see that there's a ton of new people viewing the video. I only recognized maybe 2 people. And I have a very, very small community of commenters. So I would have noticed if someone was coming by. And some people even made it clear that they didn't understand where I came from. I had one person assume that the video I was trying to find wasn't as hard to find as it was, and then they had to clear that up. And I had someone else who disagreed with my title and thumbnail, just like a lot of people did, but then they came back and they're like, oh, I get where you're coming from now. So those are clearly not people who are in a parasocial relationship with me. They were just looking at the video and forming their own opinion. So this idea that you think that just because someone supports me, they must be in a parasocial relationship, that's a damaging thing because then you are immediately invalidating someone's opinion by assuming it's parasocial. And as I said earlier, just because someone has a parasocial relationship doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. So even if they were in one, which they were not, these are new viewers commenting for the first time, and on top of that, I'm so small that I can directly interact with them, which defeats the the idea of a parasocial relationship. But even if I was this big YouTuber and I had all these commenters and I never knew who these people were and they were supporting me, it doesn't mean that their comment is invalid. It just means that they are supporting me. You can factor in parasocial dynamics into how you feel about their overall comment, but to use that in and of itself to invalidate what someone has to say means that you don't want to look at the actual information, and that is actually more damaging than a parasocial relationship in most cases. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Maybe as time goes by, people will have a better understanding of this and better opinions of parasocial relationships. But for now, it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. So we'll see how it goes. Tell me what you guys think. If you've ever seen what you believe to be a case of a parasocial relationship and why. What do you think are some other indicators that I didn't mention? And how do you feel about the whole idea of people just assuming someone's in a parasocial relationship for supporting an influencer and that being the basis of their support? Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.